Hi, this is a video for the TAs for Electrical Engineering 235 and Engineering 596 during the spring semester of 2021. These two courses will work on exactly the same schedule, so in order to explain what will need to be done, it will suffice to just look at one course, and that's ELE 235, because once again, everything will be just the same for Engineering 596. Now, for both TAs, what I want to say is that in this video, which I expect will be quite brief, I will show you the things that I need for you to do right now in Blackboard. Later on, there may be a few other duties that I will need you to do, but for right now, what I need you to do is rather easy, and I think that you will have no difficulty with it at all. Okay, the first thing I want to do, and you're not going to really need to worry about this too much, but just to let you know about it, for both courses, if you go to the content area, you will see a large number of tests, and you will be working with these tests, and so that part is important. Now, if you come down, and I think it's at the very bottom of the section in both courses, you will see the syllabus for the course. And so let me go ahead and click on that. Now, the important thing here is the schedule, which is the last page of the syllabus. And once again now, the schedule will be the same for both courses. Now, you don't have to worry about these videos. The important point here is the test. So when we're looking at the videos labeled with a 1, that's test 1. This is test 2, test 3, test 4, test 5. Every day we have a new test, except on February 24th and February 26th. That's when we will have part 1 and part 2 of midterm exam number 1. And also on March 29th and March 31st, that's when we will have part 1 and part 2 of midterm exam number 2. For right now, I don't want you to worry about the midterm exams. If we go back to the content area, you will see here that there are there's a final exam here, and there are also some midterm exams. For right now, I don't want you to worry about any of that at all. Don't bother, and certainly don't change the midterm exams, and don't change these final exams. Don't bother with that at all. The only thing I want you to do, and this is true now for both courses, the only thing that you will be dealing with at the present time are the tests and the practice tests. And you will see that for every test, there is a corresponding practice test. Now let's go back to the syllabus for just another moment or two. So you can see that we have test 1 was on Friday. Test 2 will be Monday. Wednesday we will have test 3. Friday we will have test 4, and so on. And then on February 22nd, we will have test 14. And on February 24th and 26th, we will not have any of the daily tests. We will have the two parts of the first midterm exam. Then on March 1st, we will resume with the daily test. We'll have daily test number 15 on March 1st. And we will continue to take one daily test during every class period until March 26th, when we will have daily test number 26. And then on March 29th and March 31st, we will have midterm exam number 2. And then on April 5th, we will resume with the daily test until we conclude on April 23rd with daily test number 35. Now, I gave the students some extra time for test 1. But in general, what we will do for all of the future daily tests is, and please do listen carefully, you might want to write this down. The daily test for any day will be due an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of the class. So for instance, Electrical Engineering 235 meets from 11 until 11:50. So the test will be due at 1 o'clock. On the other hand, Engineering 596 meets from 10 until 10:50, so the test will be due at noon. So, and I'm going to show you very soon how to set these due dates. But again, the due date for Engineering 596 will be at noon on the day of the test, and the due date for Electrical Engineering 235 will be at 1 o'clock on the day of the test. Now that tells you about the due date, but what about the availability date? When do we make it available? Well, what we will want to do is to make a test available as soon as the previous one is due. So for instance, test 2 is going to be test 2. Remember, that's the one for 125, which is Monday. So test 2 will be due an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class. At the same time that test 2 becomes due, you should make practice test 2 available and also test 3 available. Okay, so let me say this one more time. For any, let's maybe even skip ahead. So like for instance, here's test 17 is on March 5th. So an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class on March 5th, test 17 will be due. And at the same time that test 17 is due, then practice test 17 will become available to the students. You should make it available. You should make practice test available, practice test 17 available at the same time that test 17 is due. And likewise, you will make test 18 available at that same time. Okay? But now test 18 will be due an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class on March 8th. But what about practice test 17? When is it due? Don't make the practice test due until, let's say, May 15th. And it doesn't matter what time on May 15th, just May 15th. I want it to be after the semester. See, these practice tests are tests that the students will be able to take to practice their old test. They don't count for any credit. We won't record the score for those in the grade sheet. It's just something for the students to use to practice. They can take it as many times as they want. And so that's why we don't want to make those due until the semester is already over. So I've probably already driven this into the ground enough, but let me give you just one more example to make sure this is perfectly clear. So let's look, for instance, on March 19th. Test 23 will be due an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class. And when I say it will be due, that's what you need to make it do. Okay, so let me maybe start over and rephrase that. You need to make test 23 due an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class on March 19th. At the same time that test 23 is due, you should make practice test 23 available and test 24 available. Then you make test 24 due an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class on March 22nd. But for practice test 23, it will not be due until May 15th, anytime on May 15th. So I hope that clarifies when you should make these tests available and when you should make these tests due. And once again, for right now, only worry about the daily test. Don't worry about the midterm exams. Okay, so now the only thing that remains to be explained is how you will set these dates for these tests, and that's done on Blackboard. So let's go back and take a look at that. Now, what I'm going to do, once again now, I gave the students extra time on test 1. Ordinarily, test 1 would have been due an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class on January 22nd. But instead, I gave them extra time and I made test 1 due at the same time that test 2 is due. And that is at an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class on January 25th. So what I'm going to show you now is how to make practice test 2 available an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class on January 25th. That's when I will make practice test 2 available. I will not make it due until May 15th. And then I will also make I will make test 3 available at an hour and 10 minutes past the conclusion of class on January 25th. And I will make it due an hour and 10 minutes past the conclusion of class on January 27th. Okay, so let's see if we can keep all that straight. So again, it's the 25th. Okay, so let's see. We're working now on practice test 2 and test 3. So we go back to the content area of Blackboard, and let's go ahead and look at test 3. By the way, these, as you can see, these tests are not, they're not all in order. And if I'm not expecting you to spend any time with this trying to figure it out, but if you hear from anybody how to reorder these so that we could put them in a better order, let me know, because I'd be interested in that. But anyway, so test 3, here we go. The way that you see right now, test 3 is hidden from the students. But I want to change that. So I come up here, you see, let me actually do that again. You click this circle next to test 3. And I want to edit the test options. Okay. Now, we'll leave the name as test 3. We don't want to have to change anything here. This open test in a new window, we will not change that. But make available to students, yes. We want to make it available to the students. Add a new announcement for this test, yes. We want to do that as well. Multiple attempts on the test, we want the students to have 3 attempts. Now, on the practice test, we want unlimited attempts, but on the test itself, we want 3 attempts. Leave this as it is. We want to make the score based on the last attempt. We will not force completion. We will not set a timer. But what about this? Okay, we are going to display, so keep both of these checked. Okay, we're going to display test 3. We said we wanted to start displaying it on January 25th. So let's see, January 25th. Okay. We want to display it after January 25th, an hour and 10 minutes after the conclusion of class. Now, this is electrical engineering 235, isn't that right? Yes. And by the way, whoever is the TA for engineering 596, you'll need to go ahead and do this for test 3, and then both TAs will start doing it for test 4 and all the future tests. But since I'm going to do this for test 3 in electrical engineering 235, and then whoever is the TA for engineering 596 will need to do it for test 3, and then both TAs will need to do it for test 4, 5, and 6, and so on. So this is 235, and so as I said, 235 is 11 to 11:50, so an hour and 10 minutes past the conclusion is 1 o'clock. So we're going to say 1 p.m. Okay. So we're going to start displaying test 3 at 1 p.m. on March 25th. Which is also the due date for test 2, but I've already taken care of that. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, and now we want to continue to display. Okay, now here's an important point. When do we stop displaying test 3? Now, when you stop displaying it and when it's due are 2 different things. I would like for the students to continue to be able to view the test until May 15th. So I'm going to come up here and set the display until date to May 15th. And it doesn't matter what time on May 15th, because that's after the semester's already over anyway, so you don't have to worry about the time. Just display it until May 15th. Now, what about the due date? Okay, we said that the due date would be an hour and 10 minutes past the conclusion of class on Wednesday, the 27th. So it's already set to 1 o'clock, but let's set this now to January 27th. And there we have that. So it's due January 27th at 1 p.m. Now, We don't want the students to be able to start the test after the due date has passed, so make sure to mark this box. And then this next part is maybe the most important thing. It is very, very, very important that you remember to click this box. This is what will make sure that the grade for the test will be recorded on the grade sheet. So definitely do that. Now for the practice test, definitely don't do it. For the practice test, you'll see I'm going to do the practice test in a moment, but for the practice test, you want to hide the results. But for the regular test, definitely include the results. Okay? And, okay, now we still have a little more to go. The students, remember that the students have 3 attempts. And so after they submit, each time they submit, we want them to see what they've done incorrectly. So we're going to show them the score per question and the incorrect questions. That's after submission. And that will happen after each submission. And that way, the students will get to see what they've done wrong, and then they can hopefully figure out what's wrong and make other submissions. But again, they have 3 attempts. We also set here after the due date. After the due date, we will show them everything. You don't have to check anything for feedback. So again, we set 2 things here. After submission, after each submission, we're going to show them the score per question and their incorrect answers, and then or incorrect questions, and then after the due date, we will show them everything. And this should be set at all at once, and I believe that that's it. So let me go over this again one more time for test 3, and then we will go to practice test 2. Okay, so this is test 3. We don't worry about opening it in a new window. We're going to make it available to students. We are going to make a new announcement so the students will know it's there. We're going to allow 3 attempts. We don't worry about forcing completion or setting the timer. We're going to display it after 1 o'clock in the afternoon on January 25th, and we will display it until the middle of May after the semester is over. We're going to make the due date 1 o'clock on January 27th. We're not going to allow the students to start the test if the due date has already passed. We want to make sure, since this is a test, we want to make sure to include it in the grade center. And after each submission, we will show the students their score per question and their incorrect questions. And then after the due date, we will show them everything. And notice that it filled in that due date from above. You don't have to do that. Just say after due date. And then we'll present the test all at once. And that's it. And so we'll say submit. And that's it. And you notice here it says success, test 3 options were edited. And let's see what it says now for test 3. See, test 3, it says, it still says that it's hidden right now, but it will be available after January 25th at 1 p.m. So that's part of what we have to do. And then the other thing is test 2 practice, because remember now, at this time, January 25th, 1 o'clock, that's not only the time when test 3 will become available, but that's the time when test 2 is due. And so as soon as test 2 is due and they have to turn it in, then they can get the practice test, which allows them to see the answers and to practice with that test. So we want to look for test 2 practice. And here it is, and you can see test 2 practice is currently hidden from the students, so we're going to work on that now. Again, edit the test options. And this is going to be very similar to what we just did, but we still will make sure we understand it. So again, we do not worry about opening in a new window. We do want to make it available to the students. We do want to make an announcement. Here's the first difference. For the practice tests, we allow unlimited attempts. Score attempts using the last graded attempt, we don't have to worry too much about that because we're not going to record the scores in the grade book anyway. We don't want to force completion. We don't want to set a timer. Now, display after, okay? So we want to display this after January 25th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we want to display it until May 15th. Oops. May 15th. It doesn't matter what time. And notice that I have not set a due date. There's no due date is needed for the practice tests. And then again, this is very, very, very important. Put for the practice test, hide the results. Do not put the results for practice tests. Do not include them in the grade center, just hide them. And for the practice tests, you can show them the results after every submission and go ahead and show them everything. It doesn't matter because remember, this is test 2 practice. So by the time the students can work on test 2 practice, test 2 will already have been due. So we will go ahead and every time they work on test 2 practice, they'll be able to get all the information because this is just to help them prepare for the midterm and final exams. And we'll make it available all at once. And so I always like to make sure after I've done this, I like to go back one time and just make sure I haven't made any errors. So again, no new window. Yes, we make it available. Yes, we make a new announcement. Unlimited attempts. And display after 1 o'clock Monday. Display until the middle of May. No due date because this is a practice test. Because it is a practice test, we're going to hide the results. And because it's a practice test, we will show them everything after every submission. And so that looks right. So we submitted and test 2 practice, we had success. And that's it. So just remember to do this and if you want to go ahead and get ahead on it and do mini tests ahead, that's fine. Whatever you want to do about that. I would suggest that you don't get too far ahead at the beginning in case you're making some mistake. And of course, if you have any question, don't hesitate to email me. But I think that you'll find this very straightforward. It doesn't take much time at all. Fortunately, Blackboard does all the grading, so you won't have to worry about that. And once again, there are a few more tasks that I might need your help on later on in the semester, particularly with the midterm exams or the final exams, or with assessments. I may need to get you to look back at some old courses and gather some information. But if I need to to get help from you on that, I'll talk to you about that later. But for right now, what I have shown you is all that needs to be done. And once again, if you have any questions, make sure to let me know. But otherwise, that is it. And so thank you, and I will be talking to you later.